Hi, this is Karen Sieber, the Humanities Specialist at the McGillicuddy Humanities Center at the University of Maine. This is our inaugural First Friday 2.0. In the past, we've had live First Friday events that were often longer and a set time, and we realized that everyone is kind of zoomed out. And so we're switching things up a little bit this semester and moving forward. Really hoping to give you some more focused opportunities to interact with some of the very particular stories, hearing from faculty members and our student fellows about the work they're doing, but to give you some opportunities to both interact one-on-one as well as be able to watch these videos at your leisure and to watch some shorter videos at your leisure. We realize it's kind of hard to rewatch an entire Zoom meeting. So we have numerous events that we have coming up for Black History Month that I wanted to give you a little highlight of. The first actually has already occurred, but the others are still upcoming. All of those dates are on our website, in our newsletter, and I will also include flyers for those events at the very end of this video. So the first event has already happened. It was an event looking at the importance of Black studies in 21st century higher education. This was an event that was organized by the University of Maine Black Student Union, the University of Maine Alumni Association, as well as ourselves and a number of other sponsors. There was two notable figures that were invited to speak in this live-streamed event. Dr. John Bracey, who is a scholar of African American studies and particularly civil rights movement and the African diaspora, and he is at the W.E.B. Du Bois Department of African American Studies at UMass Amherst. And joining him was Dr. Sonia Sanchez. You might be familiar with her name. She's a notable poet. She's also well published and an author of numerous poetry books as well as scholarly books. She's a leader in the Black arts movement, and she is also a professor. So there's a full video of their talk on YouTube. I really encourage you to listen to it. It really kind of helps lay out the key points of why Black studies is important in a world in which white people of European descent are by and large the minority, and yet their viewpoint and their history and their culture is at the forefront. And so both Dr. Sanchez and Dr. Bracey lay out quite a number of good points about why this is important. They talk about their own works, kind of starting the first Black Studies departments at a number of universities in the 1960s. And so it's really just a fascinating talk, a lot of great takeaways. So I encourage you again to go to YouTube and check that out. We have 3 events that are still upcoming for Black History Month, though. The first is one that we are quite excited about. One of our undergraduate student fellows, Leela Stockley, finished up her research with us last semester, looking at racial bias in the media, in particular how it relates to the recent Black Lives Matter movement, and how the way that the words and the images that media outlets select in telling stories about protest have these larger implications for communities of color at large. And so she is a journalist of color herself, and so she thinks a lot about this. She's the current editor-in-chief of the Maine campus, and so if you have not met Leela or have heard about her research, I really hope that you can join us on February 24th at 5 p.m. Again, that will be uploaded to YouTube for those that cannot join live. The next event is actually one that I will be speaking at. The title is Using Technology to Document Racial Violence on Finding History We Don't Want to Remember. So, although my background is in public history and nonprofit management, I myself am a historian of late 19th and early 20th century U.S. history, and am quite known for my research related to race riots and lynchings. And I've recently made a discovery of a horrific event on campus that happened in 1919 that relates to some larger research that I'm doing. So I will be speaking a little bit about that event, although I've already presented on it, and there's a video up on YouTube if you're interested in the full story. But the focus of this event in particular is going to be ways in which technology allowed me to discover this story and to tell this story and to look at larger patterns in violence against people of color across history, across geographic space. The event is part of the Waldo Reads Together series, so everyone in Waldo County is going to be reading The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, and so I'll also be bringing in a little bit of ways in which technology helped bring that story to light. For those that don't know me, I'm also certified in historic gravestone repair, and so I spent a lot of time in cemeteries, and the story that Whitehead writes about in particular, there's no way that all of the pieces would have come together without things like ground sensing technology. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how recent technology especially has allowed me to do this, but also talk about the way that technology has always been a part of history and literature and change. You know, we constantly talk about, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do now as humanists now that everything is so based on technology? There's always been these issues throughout time. Communicators pivoted entirely with the invention of the printing press, or with the invention of the television or the radio. There's always been new forms of technology and new ways of getting information out there, new ways of studying it and examining it. And so this is just kind of, recent things like digitizing documents, or things like ground sensing technology or GIS. These things are all just kind of helping us do exactly the same work but in a different way, or see it in a different way. So that'll be the focus of my talk on January 25th. That is 5 p.m. I believe, so a little bit earlier in the day. But we do have a second event also on February 25th. So later that night, we have an event on Atlantic Black Box, Reckoning with New England's Complicity in the Slave Trade. If you are unfamiliar with this project, you should really go check it out. It was started by two historians, Dr. Meadow Dibble, who's a visiting scholar at Brown University in their Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice. Dr. Kate McKinnon is at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, and working within their study of global slavery department. And so they really wanted to have this website as kind of a jumping off point for community members across New England to really start uncovering the stories of New England's own complicity in the slave trade, whether that's the connection to, shipbuilding or the slave ships themselves, or ever so slightly unrelated by one step. If you look at the height of, cotton mills in New England, all of that cotton was coming from somewhere, and it was picked by someone. That labor came from somewhere and was not paid for. So they're kind of trying to use this as a way of kind of relocating how we think about slavery, because right now in public memory it is kind of tied to the South, rightfully so, but states throughout New England, there's evidence of slaveholders, across America. So this is a really important event, an important project, and so they're going to talk to you a little bit about the work they're doing and their plans for expansion. So those are the three big events that we have coming up, but of course they are not our only events. So please do check out our newsletter and our website for more upcoming events. We have a number of events for our annual symposium theme this year on the story of climate change. So there's a Women in Climate Change series and a book club that's coming up. So again, more on our website.